So there's this woman who convinced 200,000 people she was dying of brain cancer. She made nearly $500,000 selling them a cookbook and telling everyone how lemon juice saved her life. Surprisingly, the lemon juice did not save her life. Well, that's just because she never had cancer to begin with. But here's the thing. She's not even the most ridiculous person I'm going to tell you about today. We've got someone who faked being in a coma for 2 years, an entire Paralympic basketball team pretending to have intellectual disabilities, and, well, let's just say one of these stories ends with actual murder. Meet Belle Gibson. In 2012, Belle was 20 years old, broke, and starting an Instagram. So naturally, she did what any reasonable person would do when faced with financial problems. Fake terminal brain cancer for profit. Now, I don't know about you, but when I need money, I usually just make YouTube videos about people who fake cancer. Okay, I'm realizing that doesn't help my case here, but at least I'm not faking terminal illnesses. Her Instagram was called Heal Belle. Within a year, she had 200,000 followers watching her arrange smoothie bowls like modern art and post generic quotes like, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." I never agreed with that quote. I mean, like, I burnt my tongue the other day drinking a coffee. All it did was piss me off and give me a burnt tongue. But anyway, Apple featured her wellness app. Publishers fought over a cookbook deal. Her story was perfect. Doctors gave her 4 months to live. Traditional medicine failed her, but then plot twist, she discovered that alkaline diets and lemon juice could literally shrink brain tumors. People ate this up. Not the alkaline diet, the story. But here's the thing about building your entire brand around having a terminal illness. Eventually, people are gonna want to see some paperwork. Belle had this fascinating habit whenever journalists asked her for specifics. Hospital name? I prefer to keep that private. Doctor's name? My medical team values discretion. Which is totally normal for someone whose entire business model is watch me be public about my medical journey. But journalists kept digging, and what they found was nothing. No hospital records, no doctor visits, no medical bills, no cancer. When reporters finally cornered her in 2015, Belle tried a few explanations. First, I was misdiagnosed. Then maybe it was a different type of cancer. Eventually, she admitted that none of it was true. 3 years, 200,000 followers, nearly $500,000. And they say lying gets you nowhere. Now you might think faking terminal cancer represents peak commitment to a lie. My friend, you would be wrong. Meet Alan Knight from Wales, who had stolen £40,000 from his elderly neighbor with dementia. When police showed up to arrest him, you know what Alan did? Alan suddenly developed a mysterious neck injury that left him prone to falling into comatose states. For 2 entire years, this guy committed to the bit. Hospital visits where he'd lie there like an expensive mannequin. His wife wheeling him around town like she was taking a houseplant shopping. The performance was so convincing that doctors were genuinely baffled. There was just one problem with Alan's Oscar-worthy performance. Security cameras kept catching him doing very uncomatose things, like walking through a supermarket, driving his car. You know, just generally participating in consciousness. Which I'm no medical expert, but I'm pretty sure spontaneous grocery shopping isn't a typical coma symptom. You can't fool me, Alan. I've watched like an episode or 2 of House. When they arrested him, the judge called him a very accomplished and determined actor. Alan went to prison and did not receive an Oscars awards, which is debatable. Now, individual fraud is amateur compared to the next story. We got a group of guys who faked intellectual disabilities to win one of the biggest sports events in history. Spain's men's basketball team won gold at the 2000 Sydney Paralympics in the intellectual disability category. They celebrated, they cried, they wore their medals with pride. Just one small problem. 10 out of the 12 players had perfectly normal IQs. But here's the best part. One of the players, Carlos Ribagorda, this guy was actually an undercover journalist investigating disability sports fraud. So this guy spent months pretending to have an intellectual disability, trained with the team, played in the Paralympics, won a gold medal, and then wrote a newspaper article exposing the whole thing. I mean, yeah, that's either the most dedicated journalism in history or the most elaborate way to avoid doing research. The Spanish Paralympic Committee was supposed to conduct IQ tests. Their actual screening process was apparently just, can you dribble? Yeah, you can. Welcome to the team. When the story broke, Spain was stripped of their medal, and the entire intellectual disability category was suspended for 8 years. They didn't just cheat, they ruined it for everyone who actually belonged to that. Rachel Dolezal was living as a black woman, NAACP chapter president, university professor, and a civil rights activist. Just one small detail everyone missed. She's white, like really white. Her parents are Czech and German. For years, Rachel had been darkening her skin, styling her hair, and method acting her way through an entire racial identity. She even sent herself hate crime letters. The whole thing unraveled when a reporter asked her, "Are you African American?" Her response, "I don't understand the question." That's not a confusing question, Rachel. Her parents saw on TV, pretty much called her out for pretending to be black. Rachel later changed her name, wrote a book called In Full Color, and got charged with welfare fraud. Because when you're already living one lie, why not add financial fraud? Everything I've told you so far is nothing compared to our final story. Dee Dee Blanchard convinced the whole world that her daughter Gypsy Rose was dying from everything. Leukemia, muscular dystrophy, developmental disabilities, seizures, the list goes on. Gypsy was in a wheelchair, she had a feeding tube, was bald from supposed chemotherapy. They got free trips to Disney World, a house from Habitat for Humanity, and thousands in donations. Here's what nobody knew. Gypsy was perfectly healthy. She could walk, talk normally, and didn't need medication. Her mother had been forcing her to pretend to be sick for her entire life. This wasn't Instagram fraud. This was systematic medical abuse lasting decades. The charade ended in 2015, but not how anyone expected. Gypsy, who was actually 23, but her mother claimed she was a teenager, convinced her secret online boyfriend to murder Dee Dee. When police found Dee Dee's body and tracked down Gypsy, they discovered that she could walk perfectly fine, and she was far more intelligent than anyone realized. The sick, disabled child was actually a healthy adult imprisoned by her mother's lies. Anyway, that escalated quickly. We went from Instagram smoothie bowls to actual murder. The internet's a weird place, but at least most of us just repost cute cat videos on TikTok instead of building elaborate fictional identities around terminal illnesses. If you enjoyed this deep dive into professional lying, hit that subscribe button. Unfortunately, there's probably more where this came from. And remember, if this video disappears, I'm just a cat.